I'm Erica Hollingsworth, and you're listening to the F1 Podcast.
What's up, everyone? It is Ricci here from the F1 Podcast, Season 5, Episode 2. It is a couple of days before the start of the 2025 F1 season, and if you saw our reel, we're going to be talking a lot about our predictions and a couple of other things that have come up since our last week's episode. I'm here with Andrew Cleary. Andrew, how are you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. 92 long days it's been, and it's officially race week. I can't wait for the 2025 season. I think it's going to be fun considering how many new drivers we have on the grid, or even drivers and new teams. So it's going to be quite exciting for 2025, especially for those looking into 2026. So we'll see. But yes, Australia. The unfortunate part is that like the race is at midnight for us to start the year, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, and I just want to let people know that Trinity Common out in Kensington Market is going to be open. I know there is going to be a group going out to watch the race. Call ahead and see if you can make some reservations to go watch it. We are not going to be there, unfortunately, but do keep watching our social medias, and you'll see us at the next maybe potential race. We're looking at maybe Bahrain, but just
Bahrain,
keep,
yeah.
yeah, I think that makes most sense for the calendar in terms of the time as well. And I think that it's 11 o'clock start. But yeah, just keep following us on social media, and we will keep updating you on what next Race Watch will do. A couple things for this episode. We have some breaking news or some Formula One news that we kind of want to talk about
And
and
really
share.
exciting too.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So we're going to start with that. Then we're going to go through preseason testing. As for those that are following Formula One, usually there is a preseason testing in Bahrain where the teams can test their cars and just see what they need to make some adjustments before the season. Then we're going to talk maybe our preseason predictions. So that's how we're going to do that. And we're going to try to do this under 30 minutes. We'll see, and good luck to us. So breaking news earlier this week, for those that don't know, Nicole Havrda,
Friend of the
Canadian
show,
driver,
friend of the show, friend of the
friend of the
show, first and
show,
foremost.
also not only just friend of the show, but she's, we've interviewed her. F1 Academy official partner American Express have announced that Canadian driver Nicole Havrda will be representing them on the grid for the upcoming 2025 season, driving for
Let's
Hitech
go,
Grand Prix.
Nicole. Let's go, Nicole.
Three successful seasons in open real racing. She, secured three titles the following year: SFRFA2, the Formula Pro US Winter Series, and she became the first female driver to be crowned champion in Formula Pro USA. As 19-year-old, achieved four podiums in the Formula Regional Americas Championship, going on to finish sixth in the standings. Nicole, we are so proud of you putting Canada on the map, and congratulations on making the F1 Academy. You got this. We'll be cheering you on from Toronto. But yeah, big
Yeah.
news for Canada and motorsport racing.
And she's joining, I believe it's High Tech TGR, who is the official team that she'll be entering through for the F1 Academy this year. But the fact that we have somebody that we know is going to be driving circuits like Shanghai, Jeddah, Miami, like even Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, she'll be there when we're there, which is going to
Yeah,
be exciting. So we're super proud of you, Nicole. We can't wait you to see some kick some real ass out on the track against the likes of, Chloe Chambers, of, Ella Lloyd. Like, I mean, oh my goodness. Really exciting to see. And Nicole, we wish you all the best this coming season.
don't count us Canadians out. We'll put our elbows up. We're not afraid of a little fight on the track if we have to. So again, on behalf of the F1 podcast, myself, Andrew, and Erica, we're really proud of you, Nicole. Congratulations. Really big achievement. Also, another news, I will turn this one over to you, but I think we now finally have an 11th team officially on the grid for
I mean, we've been
2026.
talking about it forever. F1 needed an 11th team. And finally, the FIA and F1 management announced and agreed to Cadillac Formula One team meeting the existing requirements of the 10 starting teams for next year so that they will join the F1 World Championship in 2026. This is huge for, I think, the growth of F1 as a sport. Having that 11th team, especially a significant backing like General Motors or Cadillac, right? An automotive works team supporting in the 11th team on the grid, I think is going to be so huge for the development, not only of F1, but for sustainability. Because previously we've seen teams like HRT, like Caterham, they just couldn't survive just based on, funding and financing of those pools. With a auto works team like GM having the financial backing that they do have, I think they're going to be in for the sport for a long time. And I think an 11th team is needed considering the talent that's coming through the grid, not only in like F2, F3, F4, but even in IndyCar as well. So super excited to see this news. And I don't know about you, Richie, but I have some ideas of who might be the driver lineup for 2026.
Yeah, I wonder if we kind of should save that for later in the episode, or should we might as well just go right into it? So we're going to
Why
save
don't we
it.
go right in? Let's just predict. So, who do you think is going to be in the driving for Cadillac in 2026?
So I think my two picks would be Colton Herta, and from a marketing perspective, I think they're going to go back to Daniel Ricciardo. As someone who has been very popular, so let's start with Colton Herta. He's been driving phenomenal in IndyCar. He's got 9 wins, 18 podiums, and as well as 14 pole positions. He's drove for a number of teams, and if I've got to see him drive here in Toronto, and I think he would be a much needed local boy and supporting the team and just growing this Formula One in the States alone from an American perspective. And I think Daniel Ricciardo, there is still a possibility that if he still has that desire to come back, and I think he's very marketable. It's no secret here in the United States, so why not put him? But I also would not count out Sergio Perez. So those are
Mhm.
my three potentials, but I'll turn it over to you. I think you and I agree on the first one, but disagree on the second one.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Cadillac, they're going to have at least one American driver in on the lineup to begin with. And Colton Herta was quite talked about coming over a couple years ago. Maybe I think it was for Haas, but he didn't have a super license points yet to compete. I think that will change. I think he's going to look to accumulate his super license points for 2026 so that he can join Formula One. He's done very well at the IndyCar level, to be honest with you. And I think this would be kind of a natural transition, for an American driver to come over. The second one, I think personally, is going to be Sergio Perez, only because I know his form took a big dive at Red Bull. But a guy like Sergio, he has that veteran know-all leadership, knows how to, he's in a Constructors Championship car. He knows what it takes to win. Similar
Mhm.
like Valtteri Bottas. But I think with what Sergio brings that like a Valtteri Bottas or a Daniel Ricciardo would not bring to Cadillac initially is an influx of significant revenue from marketing dollars and advertising dollars. Because I think honestly that was one of the big reasons why he stayed was because of the Mexico Grand Prix like last year, and why he wasn't booted out for Daniel Ricciardo was because his presence in Mexico is so massive, which honestly brings in these massive sponsorships from Mexico to help support teams. And I think when you first enter the league, you need an influx of that cash to really stay competitive in the cap. And I think Sergio's sponsorships would bring that. So that's why I think Sergio would be the number two driver, so to speak, and Colton would be the number one
And
for
having
Cadillac.
talked to some of our fans, particularly, I still talk to a lot of them that are based in southern United States and in Mexico. Like Sergio Perez's face is everywhere. And I remember was it the US Grand Prix 2 years ago, they even used Sergio Perez as promotional material or promotional drive. And I think it must have been Houston or something. The Red Bull did like one of those street kind of races or burning the tires. And I think about it now that another US team comes into the market and plays maybe potentially a spoiler to Haas. And I just double checked that Cadillac Ferrari will be using a Ferrari engine in 2026. And then if they put Colton Herta, he is the youngest driver to win a race in IndyCar. So like I think the stars are aligned for him to kind of jump into that seat. Mindful that, it's still very early and, we're about to jump into the new season. So some things can play and some politicking can happen. But those are kind of who I think potentially, and I appreciate your point of view of what you think could be to jump into there.
I agree. Again, all in all, what I love about this is how exciting an 11th team is going to be. And hopefully Cadillac can become competitive just to add to the fight, right? And it's going to be just really exciting because I feel like with Cadillac coming in, there could be more money now in the prize pool for the constructors. So all to play for really in 2026, new regs. I think that's going to be a huge talk next season, but we have to focus on 2025, Richie.
And so let's just start about it. I think was it last week that we're filming this on March 11th. We had preseason testing. For those that don't know, before usually the season starts, the teams go to Bahrain for a couple of days to practice on the track there, see what any adjustments needed to be done by those with their cars. There was some incidents regarding weather and some awkwardness. I don't know if you kind of want to talk a little bit about that, but kind of from a standpoint, I know a lot of teams are all, we have the new regulations coming into effect in 2026. So this is the last time that we're going to see this style of car. But I guess, Andrew, what really stood out for you in this year's preseason testing? I think for me was just seeing all the different dynamics of what are they focusing on. The McLarens still look relatively fast, and we could talk about that in our preseason predictions. But I think that McLaren car will definitely be a car to beat. Ferrari looked pretty good. I think Red Bull, while not doing the most laps, still looked like, with Max Verstappen in that, still somewhat competitive. But I'm curious to see what stood out for you in preseason testing.
I thought there were some quirks, unfortunately, that stood out for me preseason testing, especially on day one, when the power was cut in the afternoon session. Their power was cut for an hour and no one knew what was going on. So they extended preseason testing for an hour, thankfully. But I thought that was kind of funny in the sense that everybody's screens went blank and it was okay. What do we do now? We have a new F1 graphics package, which I'm kind of excited about. It's kind of got like that old school, well, not old school. It's the existing or last year's package with some more of like I want to say like college font numbering system. You'd have to see it when you look at it. I don't know if you watch college football, you would understand what I meant. But yeah, it's tough, right? It's the new regs put in next year, right? Are gonna, there's evolutions of the car that I don't think a lot of teams really care about this year, to be honest with you, especially in the bottom. What I think was very surprising for me was how Aston Martin, despite knowing that 2026 is around the corner, completely changed their philosophy on how the drivability of the car worked. Like Alonso was saying that like 85% of the car is new compared to last year. And unfortunately, that didn't translate well in the training. They didn't do a lot of race simulation, but if you were to take a look at what the race sim was like, they could be, they were like 1.6 seconds behind the leaders per lap.
Mhm.
I'm like, that's a huge gap. So I don't know if partially that was sandbagging or if we're going to have like a real Alpine situation at Aston Martin this year where we're going to be a boat the entire season. But I don't care because I only care about 2026 and what Adrian Newey has. So honestly, tank this season, give us all of
The wind tunnel time.
give us all the wind tunnel time because Daddy Stroll has got the money. So we don't need championship money right now. We just need as much time and resources that we can get to really build that car for 2026 and onwards.
Okay, I was going to ask over or under one podium this year. Is that doable for us?
Oh, under. I mean,
You lose.
to sniff points would even be, I think, a shock, to be honest
Do a
with you.
barrel roll.
I just don't think the drivability of the car is like I think we have an Alpine situation where last year they tried to change the drivability and how the car was developed compared to the season before, and it really did not work out well. It took a race in Brazil, right? It took like a chaos-based race, get some luck to move from P9 to P6. Truthfully, Alpine was a P9 car last season until that one race. But so yeah, I don't think they're scoring a podium at all this season whatsoever.
I think it was pretty special to finally see Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari car and after the photo shoot that he did in his first couple of days. But yeah, it's that car's gonna look quick. It's still it's gonna be nice to see in a couple of days on how that's gonna be, but he had 70 laps under his belt in the new car, and you said here the sensors on the front of the car. What was the rake sensors?
Well, yeah, so his first laps were based with like the rake sensor, so it was kind of interesting to see like he wasn't him like in the actual like just with the car itself, like he had the rake sensors going, which was kind of fun. But honestly, if I'm a Ferrari fan, if I'm you, John, this year, I'm very excited. I don't think the car is quite exactly yet as to where McLaren is based on evolution, but I think Hamilton's drivability and the way he can work that car, if you just give him competitive machinery, he's one of the greatest drivers in the world. And uh, I have a lot of confidence in Hamilton pushing Ferrari to a level that they haven't seen since '07.
And I think maybe that's what kind of they were struggling for the longest time is, they've had great drivers come in, but maybe they just needed that extra, a person like him and his stature of somebody of 12, being with Mercedes for 13 years, and he is on the cusp of tying, not tying, but overtaking Michael Schumacher's like GOAT record. Also, I think it was really interesting. We had a couple of rookies, their first time in the F1 car. Hadger and Lawson. Antonelli was the quickest. Hadger, if I'm pronouncing it, seems to have a tough day. It's still, get all your goosebumps out at preseason before getting to Australia, I think is the kind of the goal. I don't know what Ollie Behrman was, how he looked, but I have high hopes for him this season, and we can maybe start to move into the our predictions. Also, really interesting because I'm not gonna get into Drives to Survive, but I watched the Monaco episode about Charles Leclerc. I'm just gonna say that now mandatory two-stop race for this year.
Well, they got to do something, otherwise it's a complete bore show. So the fact that they have to do two pit stops is Ferrari could get double opportunity to screw up the strategy for Leclerc on the pits.
I know that's the sad part. Okay, so I guess let's quickly get into our preseason predictions.
Yeah.
And if you didn't see my amazing 5 sec or 1 minute reel, couple of comments in the section below. I asked our fans what they think. Podium Queens, she thinks it's going to be a McLaren back-to-back Constructors Championship. With the caveat, Max will still come up on top with Red Bull because he can push that thing to none other. And it will be tight between Lando and Lewis, the Battle of the Crown. She thinks that Rookie of the Year will be Kimi, but she says Ollie is someone to watch out for. Wood, Wide, Wookie, McLaren lock out 1 and 2 with a Lando win. Hamilton takes third on his Ferrari debut. That's what he meant about this weekend. But so yeah, 5 categories that we kind of asked our fans what we want. Your top 5 drivers championship, who will be your constructors, best rookie this season based on the percentage of points secured for their team, top 3 boldest predictions and hottest takes, who will drive for Cadillac in 2026, which we've already talked about, so we can scratch that off. Before we kind of get into this, Tyler Hathroll, friend of the show, fellow Red Bull expert, he called me up and he was very adamant to provide his opinion. Max will get his 5th title. Carlos will get a podium for Williams. Stake will get 0 points this season. And Dohan will keep his seat all year at Alpine. Jack Doohan, sorry.
I love Tyler's optimism with regards to Max and Carlos. Don't know if those are realistic, but I love the optimism.
We just love it. We just love it.
Just love it. Just love it. He's got the best optimism of all optimistic people.
You know what, Tyler Hathaway, absolute beauty of the show. I'll just say that. Okay, so let's go. Top 5 drivers championship. And so this is how we're thinking of this is from first to 5.
Mhm.
Do we want to kind of go what you think and your rationale, and then I'll go my rationale
Sure.
of my top 5?
Actually, let's do 5-1. Create some expense. So
Okay.
for me, in 5th place, I have Charles Leclerc.
Okay.
Only because Ferrari are going to be the number 2 car. I think Ferrari is going to be either like the second car going into the season in terms of being the fastest. So I have a feeling that it's just like kind of like where I think there's so many good drivers, like the top 8 or top 6 really. Um, or top 8 if you're including Mercedes. I just think Charles is going to be there in 5 because this might be a shocker to a lot of people. I have Max Verstappen finishing 4th in the Drivers' Championship this season. When I looked at the uh, testing, Red Bull did the least amount of laps among anybody, which is very rare for that team. Like Red Bull does a lot. Verstappen pumps out like lap after lap after lap. Issue is I don't know if they've made the best changes to RB21 based on the previous issues they've had with RB20. And I know Max can take that car to another level, but the thing was he had such a hot start last season that he kind of was able to, ride the wave, mix in with some bad strategy from McLaren that kind of kept him into that uh, win because Brazil, if we think about it, it took like his best drive ever just to solidify, just to take away the championship away from Lando. Because think about it, if Max didn't have that drive, Lando would have been like cut that lead in half with 3 races to go. Who knows? Probably would have won it, right? So I just don't think the car's there. So I'm going to give Max Verstappen P4. I'm going to give Oscar Piastri P3 in the championship.
Who,
Because
breaking news, sorry to interrupt you, just
Go ahead.
resigned with McLaren.
Was that just now?
43 minutes ago.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Finally, we get some breaking news on this show. Usually it happens after we record.
Well, we could thank Tim Hernaney at TSN for that. It popped up. It was my tweet.
Timmy, our boy, another friend. But yeah, Oscar Piastri finishing P3. Now, you're thinking, who are the top two? I'm going to put Lando Norris in P2 because your 2025 World Drivers Champion and record-setting 8th win will be Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. I don't care what people say. I think this is going to give Hamilton a new life. He's going to be hungrier than ever to get his 8th with the SF25 that are coming. That's going to be driving. And what a storybook type that would be to have Lewis Hamilton win his 8th for Ferrari in his first season at Ferrari too.
You said Red Bull or Ferrari? Okay.
Well, I think the Lewis fans would kill me if I said he'd be a good Red Bull driver.
So it's tough because like I obviously really want him to win the first year at Ferrari. And I was thinking about this throughout the day, and I actually, I went between who was going to win this year. I was thinking Lewis, I was thinking Max, I was thinking Lando. So those 3 were all going through my head. Or, maybe Charles can come and play spoiler in the middle. So I have mine as Oscar 5th, Lewis 4th, Charles 3rd, Lando 2nd, and Max 1st.
Okay.
That's what I have. We can't deny that Max Verstappen is the GOAT. He somehow will pull out drives like no tomorrow. Having said that, I don't have them winning the constructors this year. I'm going to be very honest with that. Liam Lawson, first year in a Red Bull racing car.
His ass is going to be on the hot seat to begin the season, right? Because Red Bull are not afraid to get rid of drivers midway through.
And I think that is why the rationale is that all the focus is going to be on Liam Lawson. Having said that, so I still think there's a lot that McLaren can be happy with last season. I think, Lando and Oscar clearly, as Zach Brown says, 2 number 1 drivers, which is true. However, it was clear that later in the season that they need to start focusing on Lando. So I think there's going to be a couple of moments this season where, maybe they're going to say, Oscar, you need to move over to Lando. And maybe Oscar could be like, I don't know if I really like that. I don't know if I can really, and maybe cause some drips moments. So I think for success for me would just have the Ferraris in the top four, and just still being competitive. And I think we got to all think about it that Michael Schumacher did not win in his first year of Ferrari when he came from Benton. He took him a couple of years of in the dog days to finally get that first win Ferrari, and I think it must have been, I think 99 if I'm not mistaken.
No,
So
2000, I think. But still, yeah, it took him like 2 or 3 seasons to have that win.
yeah, 2000. Sorry, 2000. Yes, 2000. Um, and I think Charles like has proven himself last year. He had some great races, so I think still there. And I think Lando definitely learned a lot from as a driver perspective, and he wants to compete against Max. He's not afraid to fight Max. I know they're friends, but that's kind of my philosophy. Is I don't want to go all in on Ferrari this year. I think they are there. I think it's just going to be interesting on how some of those team dynamics are going to play, and if Zach Brown is going to be even um, more tight on his drivers and say, listen, we need to play the 1-2 here. And like also the outlier, how is Lewis and Charles going to look this year in terms of them as teammates? So that is what keeps me a little not as a Ferrari fan. I want to be happy, but I just gotta, just gotta wait. Just gotta wait.
Take it easy.
Take it
So,
easy.
so you're saying that McLaren would be the constructors champion this year?
Yes, 100. I think 100% that, the way that, because if it is just Max fighting himself up there, then, if you have two versus one in the long run, it's just they're going to score the more points. But I
Yeah,
think it's still going to be relatively close. It will probably be the last race of the season, just like it was this year.
yeah,
In
I agree. I
2024.
think McLaren will be the constructors champion, but watching Drive to Survive and really putting, as you mentioned, the emphasis on the fact that they have two number one drivers, I don't think that's always the best strategy to have
No.
because you're going to have those spats, as you mentioned, between Oscar and Lando. They had it last year, right? And that's when strategy kicked them in the rear end because they coughed up some key points. And as much as they say, oh, we're going to learn from our mistakes, but what if they don't? What if they run into the same issue again and again and again this season, right? They're going to have to pick a clear number one. So the notion of having two number one drivers, I get it's all hunky dory and it sounds amazing, but really at the end of the day, you need a one and you need a two to focus on the championship, on both championships. And you owe it to your driver who's leading the championship to be that number one guy.
Yeah.
So I think that is going to be the crux that McLaren are going to experience this season as well.
Yeah. And like, keep in mind, I'm ready to get told off by our fans, and I'm ready to get like absolutely destroyed in our predictions. So, I think it is a healthy debate that you and I have disagreements on like where we think things are going to go, and that's glad, because that's healthy. It's healthy to debate people on here, and I'm ready for fans to say the same thing. So, best rookie of the year. I mean, will we really call him a rookie since he had multiple races last year? But I personally think Ollie Behrman is probably in the best position in terms of, less stress, because not a lot of people are going to be focusing on him. They're going to be looking at Liam Lawson. They're going to be looking at the other V car drivers, and like maybe what are the stake drivers going to look like this year? Yeah, I think Ollie is probably the safest bet in terms of best rookie for the season, because
Yeah,
he's just
and I
like
would
go ahead. Sorry.
and that's from like a point of view, I think too, that's based on percentage of team points scored or constructors points scored. Like if we were gonna go by points scored, it's obviously going to be Antonelli at Mercedes because he's given the machinery that's best. But I think if we're looking at it from a team perspective and what they can do, I agree. I think Ollie can showcase his talents. He raced for Haas last season a couple times. He won, he scored points his first go around with Ferrari and Jeddah, which
Yeah.
was amazing. Yeah, Stake is going to be awful this season, considering this is like their last year as the outfit. They're going to Audi next season. Why are they going to spend any money on the cars? So Bortoletto is going to be kind of sat in the back seat, unfortunately. And I think Racing Bulls aren't going to be very good either. So that kind of nicks out Hajar. And I think Behrman is probably the one that's going to be all encompassing in terms of percentage of points scored for their team, I would say it's Behrman as well.
Yeah, and then also like we keep forgetting we've maybe talk about Kimi Antonelli. I think coming into it, I think he's what 18
But
coming
man, he
into
looked good. He looked good in preseason testing. I think he can give George a proper fight, considering George is now the new leader at the Mercedes camp.
Yeah, there we have it for those. Lastly, we'll go into our top three boldest predictions or hottest takes. Um, do you want me to go first or do you
Sure,
want
yeah,
to?
go ahead.
So like clearly I'm wearing a certain shirt, and if you saw the preview, I think Carlos Sainz is going to be a driver to watch this season, and I dare to say it, podium for him. I think he has a lot to bring to the team, and I think he will be able to bring Williams to the back to the promised land. And I think having, being Alex Albon, I think it's a healthy balance of those two drivers. Very well. I also want him to do well because I think he put in a lot of time and effort at Ferrari, and obviously it sucked the way he went out. Um, I think Lawson and Verstappen are going to collide at some point in the season. I think there's going to be some sort of collision. Um, and I kind of like the stake 0 points. I think that's just a fair assumption. And so I'm going to leave it at that. I wouldn't say that's hot takes, but that's where I'm thinking.
I kind of went a little, let's say, homey for my boldest predictions. I think Aston Martin are going to finish P8 in the Constructors Championship this year. I just don't think they have the car that really competes well, just considering the change in drivability philosophy. It's really tough to do that in a season. And plus, I mean, for the teams down at the bottom of the field after the first 5, 6 races, you're not looking to upgrade the car. You're going to
Mhm.
focus time on 2026 development, right? Or at least that's my thinking. So, in my opinion, if they have a bad first few races, they're not bringing any big develop or upgrades to the car to keep boosting because again, they need as much wind tunnel time given to Adrian Newey to build that 2026 beast. So saving it for 2025 for 2026. With that said, though, I think Williams will win the midfield battle. I think they have a good car, but they have, in my opinion, the best midfield driver lineup with Sainz and Albon. And they haven't had that in a long, long, long time. So I think they are going to, I think that the racecraft of those two, just the veteran leadership of those two are going to be really key for Williams this season. I can see them sneak out a midfield battle win. I also think a rookie is going to win this year in 2025. We have like 6 on the grid, one of them being Kimi Antonelli. And I think Antonelli is fast enough to win a race, especially in Mercedes. If we're going to be comparing last year to this year, and I think it's just going to be an evolution of last year, all the top 4 teams won races, right? And Mercedes won races with both George and Lewis. I think Antonelli can take one this season. So I think a rookie's going to win in 2025. This one might be the big one. I think since Max isn't going to have a great season this year at Red Bull, this will be his last season with Red Bull. He's going to be so tired
Oh,
of all the BS and how the car's not good and everything like that, that you know what? He misses his boy Adrian Newey. Adrian gave him a really fantastic car, and Daddy Stroll wants to win beginning in 2026. So Dad is going to look at Lance and say, "Look, son, your time's over. It's Verstappen time now." And Max Verstappen is going to make his move to Aston Martin in 2026 and drive alongside Fernando Alonso, who, according to him, gets best along with his teammates. I don't know if you saw that in the F1 interviews. Gets along best along with his teammates. I'm sure Lewis has something to say about that. But
I'm sure, and I also say Drive to Survive the earlier seasons didn't really paint him as a very cooperative driver
yeah,
during his times at McLaren. Those dog days that he probably regrets
yeah.
going
But
there.
But when we see silly season come up and you see Max Verstappen leaving Red Bull for Aston Martin, you guys can come back to this episode on March 11th, March 12th when you're listening to it and be like, damn, these guys know what they're talking about.
Do a barrel roll. Wait to see the day. I will also add another one. I think Lewis will win 2 races this year. That is, I think that is a fair, honest prediction. But it would be, I think everyone wants to see him winning a race in a Ferrari jacket. So I'm going to put that. So there you have it. Those are our 2025 preseason predictions. Lot to talk about, lot to debate in the comment section below. Be nice in the comment section below if you think our ideas are a little out there. Let's just say that. As
Or don't
always,
be
Andrew.
nice, be ruthless. Only
Yeah,
time will tell over 24 races.
yeah. I mean, like based on our track record, we get these wrong all the time. So,
Yeah.
but it's race week, and we're
It's
going
race
to
week.
Australia this weekend, which is going to be really exciting. Um, you know, those were our takes of the season. Let's see how it all plays out in the land of Down Under. I'm Jonathan, or I'm Ricci, and this is Andrew. And Eric are going to be at this week's episode. Thank you, everybody, for your suggestions and your predictions. And we're back, baby.
We're
Formula
back.
One is back. And tune in next week where we'll cover the first race of the 2025 season in Australia for the Australian Grand Prix.